Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Eador, and this is Eador, Masters of the Broken World. As you can tell, this world is pretty broken because there's nothing but shards and no actual world. But we're going to go ahead and talk to the Czar some more so we can deal with all this extra plot stuff. And then we'll see about what we're going to do for the rest of this campaign. Anyway, where are we? Boss, that's my favorite rhetorical question, although I prefer the wording. Where the heck am I? I can hardly keep from asking that every time you ask me this next It wasn't a rhetorical question. What is this place, Czar? Well, boss, I wouldn't call it a place at all. There are no such notions as place and other conventionalities of the physical plane here. We're on the astral plane now, boss, or simply in the astral. Just don't ask me what the astral is. I'm not ready to spend the rest of my immortal life trying to explain it to you. Alright, but you can at least briefly tell me about the astral. To tell about the astral briefly is kind of like to die just a little bit. Know what I mean, boss? Astral is the astral. There are no such notions as top, bottom, far, close. There are no objects and no substances here. It's the plane of pure reason and a dwelling place to the spirits. The only dimension more or less applicable here is order chaos. In astral terms, Eador is something like a bubble of order in the ocean of chaos, although it's not quite a bubble, because it's not spherical. To be more precise, it has no shape at all, just like everything else in the astral. Eador is an aggregate of thought forms possessing a certain orderliness. In the center of the orderliness is a celestial body called Sun by the mortals. For some reason I understood nothing of your explanations. I told you it was hopeless, boss. Spend some time floating around the astral and you'll understand what it is. The most important thing is to grasp the fundamental law of the astral. The more order, the closer to the center of Eador. The more chaos, the closer to, well, chaos. But you told me the notions like far and close don't exist in the astral. Well, I had to find a way of explaining so you could understand it, boss. Far and close are the most relevant notions from the physical plane. The further you are from something in the astral, the more energy you spend to get there. That is, if you want to leap from chaos into the center of Eador, you'll have to spend heaps of energy. And how can the amount of order be measured? Well, that's almost a philosophical question, although from a certain point of view, your so-called world is a rather good aggregate of order, although sometimes after I visit it, I'm pretty sure that it's actually a miniature model of chaos. Anyway, the more shards you join together, the more orderly your world becomes. In astral terms, of course, I'm pretty confident your world will be a rather chaotic place. I see. Thank you, Czar. I don't care about chaos. As you can see, this game, I did mention this is a strategy RPG. There actually are multiple endings to this campaign, which is kind of interesting for a strategy game. Anything else, boss? Yes, more questions. You said there are no objects or substances in the astral, so why do I see my own world in the shards of the other worlds around? It's not the shards that you see, boss, it's their thought forms. The shards themselves are located on the physical plane. Here we only see their projections. That's why you can't go onto the shard yourself, and you're forced to use the mortals to do your dirty deeds. Only the projection of your will onto the physical plane will be present on the shard, not yourself. What do you mean projection? Isn't that a geometric term? Please, quit torturing me, boss. I could say avatars or reflections. Would that make things more clear? There are only the physical and astral planes, and a certain connection between them known as projections. Call it anything you like. It won't change the essence of things. I say thank you, Czar. What's going on in the world now? In what world, boss? In Eador, of course. Ah, I thought you were asking about your world. There's no difference, though. In both places, chaos and anarchy reign. In Eador, lords are fighting over the shards, chaos is sending out their spawns, and the world is on the verge of destruction. The usual, boss. What do you mean the world is on the verge of destruction? Well, that's just the way things are. Chaos is about to engulf the whole of Eador. As far as I'm concerned, it's only a matter of time, boss. How can you talk about this so calmly? Why, boss? Why? Boss, am I supposed to run around wailing we're all gonna die? Why worry in vain when I can't influence it anyway? I'd rather enjoy the present while I can than quiver with fear, agonizing over the inevitable. Sorry, I'm having trouble with some of these commas they keep putting around here. You mean Eador stands no chance? Well, I didn't say so. Since chaos hasn't swallowed it yet, that means something's stopping it. If this something keeps functioning, Eador will survive, until the demons find and destroy this thing. What this something could be, Czar? Who knows? It could be anything. Maybe not even a something, but more somethings. Try to find out what the demons are trying to destroy most of all. Perhaps that will give you an idea. As far as I remember, they destroy everything. Excellent observation, boss, although there's something that the demons are destroying with greater pleasure and zeal. Think about it whenever you have a chance. So, you do know what that thing is. I don't know for sure, I have a guess, but I'm not going to share my guess with you since I'm not sure it's correct. In such delicate issues as the fate of the world, mistakes can prove too costly, so look and think for yourself. That's how you're talking now. Alright, Czar, I'll think about it. More questions. Why does the world consist of shards? I love this question. I love questions like this, boss. Kind of like, why is the water wet and why is the sky blue, and so on. It's just the way the world is. There are plenty of things in this world that I don't like, but if you don't learn to take it as it is, your life will be much harder. Just spare me your philosophical preachings. I have no objections to the water being wet and the sky being blue, but separate shards, that's somehow wrong. As if they used to be parts of something greater. Ah, I got you, boss. You're trying to justify your petty passion for conquering shards and putting them together in one bundle, proudly called the world. Don't worry. Don't bother. Things aren't that complicated. This is just plain greed and lust for power. Understandable feelings inherent to most sentient beings. So there's no need to be ashamed and invent lofty excuses. Can you give me a proper answer to a question for once? I bet you know the shards are somehow unnatural. I always give proper answers to your questions, boss. It's just that you don't always take my answers properly. Would you like to listen to some nonsense about the one world and the creator? Like all those priest guys stuff the believers' heads with? Sure, I know a bunch of tales like that. Each race has several versions, and every single one is so ridiculous it's impossible to forget, like a good joke. I'm not gonna listen to his jokes. No, I'm not interested in the stories of mortals. Anything else, boss? Yes, I have more questions. Why are you serving me? Boss, you asked me the question that I've been asking myself from the very day I started serving you. Pity would be the most sensible and honest answer. Your memory has been failing you so often recently that you need to be under constant supervision just to answer questions like, who am I, are you my mommy, and what's this stuff around us, and other equally important questions germinating in your inquisitive mind. I'm fit for this role for two reasons. First, my mind is sound enough to answer the same idiotic questions over and over, dozens of times. Second, I find it rather amusing. Did I manage to satisfy your curiosity, boss? Amusing, you say. Have it ever occurred to you that one day when I've had enough of your puns and stupid jokes, I might just throw you out? I can hardly wait for that moment, boss. Getting back my freedom would be the best of gifts. Aha! Then you're serving me because you have no other choice. You're bound by a vow or a contract or something else of that sort? Nah, boss, now you're reaching too far. Vows and contracts, it's just that I've lost to you in a game of poker, and now I'm working off my debt. Just for the record, I'm still pretty sure that you cheated in the final round. I asked the experts, and they all said that even chaos decks don't have 5 aces, and we were playing a regular deck. And how long do you still have to work it off? Not too long, just an turning and a half left. I bet you're lying. Anyway, I won't cry without you. I haven't noticed you being too useful so far. Anything else, boss? Yes. Stop calling me boss. Why are you... Why? But you are my boss. The one that gremlin, me in this particular case, works for is called boss. There's no other way. Just don't call me that. Alright, boss. Didn't I ask you not to call me that? Consider it done, boss. You're incorrigible, Czar. Of course. You want to know why? Because I'm perfect. Imperfect beings work on changing themselves for the better, getting rid of bad habits and addictions. Only a perfect creature like me can be truly incorrigible. Any correction would ruin such a perfect being. If you're the perfection incarnate, then why are you serving me and not the other way around? Alas, I am perfect, but this world is not. Due to the absurd laws of this miserable world, I must take a low, unworthy place in it. If only you knew, boss, how hard it is to be a perfect creature in such an imperfect world. I wonder whether that's something you just made up, or have you been suffering in a world so unworthy of you for a long while? What's the difference? It doesn't change the essence of things. With your permission, boss, I'll go contemplate the vanity of everything. Make sure you contemplate on how to stop calling me boss. As you say, boss. Alright. Good news is we don't have to hear any of that anymore. We will have more dialogue with the gremlin as well as some other people later on, but I want to take care of the info dumps when I can. so you don't have to deal with them all at once. Alright, you're in the astral screen now. You can see your world and the shards surrounding it in front of you. Click on any of the shards to view the details about it. So if you click on yourself, it reveals the difficulty level I'm currently at, which is competent. But I believe it will give us an opportunity to choose our difficulty level. You can also change your difficulty level here on this menu here. I can change it to whatever I want. There's beginner, skilled, competent, expert, master, lord, and overlord. Essentially, if you want no bonuses and no penalties, you want expert. I found expert a little too hard, and also some of the unfair things about this game, I went ahead and just stick with competent. Competent's not too bad. I still have to do a little bit of safe scumming simply because you can't really afford to waste turns in this game. But more on that later. Anyway, so there's a bunch of shards. Click on them. Each shard contains the secrets of constructing certain buildings. In addition, shards give their owners additional advantages in military campaigns and serve as a source of energy. You can just try to subsume any of the shards into your world. To do so, select the shard and click the attack button. So, we have multiple shards here. This is each of the shards have their own terrains and their types. Right now all of these are just normal shards, but they have different terrains. This one's mostly water. This one's mostly water. This one is mostly plains. This one's mostly swamps, and this one's mostly plains. Also, each of these will provide energy if you successfully take it over. Energy is down here in the bottom left. Astral Energy can be used to purchase benefits that will carry over to the beginning of your next conquest. So it's kind of an interesting little thing. So even if you're winning like a campaign in a shard, once you start another shard, you're going to be at square one again, unless you use energy, which is not that big of a deal. Other things you get. You'll also get these benefits here. These are, what do you call these? Plans or schematics. If you get these schematics, you can actually build them in the in your next shard conquest. So right now we don't have access to these. So for the most part, you start out with I think all the rank 1 buildings, or at least most of them, and maybe a few rank 2 buildings, and everyone starts in the same boat for the most part. But as you take over shards, you'll get more and more schematics. Also, every shard you take over, along with these schematics, you'll get at least 1 or 2 random schematics that you could have gotten from these other ones. So generally, what you want to do is get as much energy as possible, so you can take a bit, so you can do a bigger conquest with less, with less hassle. Also, you want to go ahead and take things that have certain schematics that can be very useful for you, which can vary depending on your playstyle. It can also vary depending on what sort of shards you're going after next. For right now, most of these are just normal shards, so it's not that big of a deal. Other things you get whenever you take over shards, as you can see, this one gives you plus 16 gold reserve. What this will do is you can spend energy to get additional gold at the beginning of your next shard conquest. This one will allow you to start with an additional unit in your garrison, in this case a militiaman. And then this one will increase your gold income, which is a little bit more expensive to increase. And then this one can allow you to start with free items in your treasury, which you can equip to your heroes and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's the gist of it. Let's see what our time is. Okay. What I'm thinking of doing is allowing you guys to pick my shards. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and show you, I want to go ahead and pick the first shard for you guys. Simply because I can show you guys kind of the gist of how this game works. I'm looking at stuff here. Okay. I think I really want I'm taking a look at these. We have 5 shards to choose from. Right now we have no competition, which is good. These are actually really good things, like a lot of these. Light infantry. Driver's Guild, Warrior's Guild, Chieftain's Tent. Yeah, I don't need those. Sage's Guild's pretty decent, but you don't really need them. Crystal Force, Forster's Guild. I actually don't want any of the ones that are seas, simply because there have been people that have had issues with the sea terrains, because if you remember in the tutorial, we had to go from a port to go across water, and right now we don't start out with a schematic that allows us to build ports. So you can actually have yourself in a situation where you cannot reach the opposing force because you don't have a port. I'm thinking of going to Sotorge, which is a swamp area. The Merchant's Court is a really good item, or really good schematic. Gives you access to adventurers, which are pretty good guards to have. The brewery's pretty good, and the market's pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm going to be going for that one. Where's the other plains one? Drivers, warriors, chieftain. Yeah, I think our best bet's going to be going for this one, which is actually a small map. I actually don't want to do a small map. I might have to do a tiny. Well, I want to do a tiny. A tiny map means you'll be going up against one guy, which is not a big deal. Small maps, you'll be going up against two guys, and then so forth. These shards do get pretty big. An average size shard is pretty huge, simply because of how difficult things are. I really don't want to start with water. I really don't. But I think I'm not going to have much of a choice. The Lookout Tower and the Theater are actually really good things that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and bite the bullet and try doing a sea-based one. But I'm not going to make any promises. If it doesn't work out, the game does make a autosave on your campaign map here. So I can just reload here and try again. So we're going to go ahead and attack Turnist, which is a tiny sea-based map, or shard rather, and we're going to get these items. The Lookout Tower is really good because of the guards. Guards are really good garrisons to have. They're very durable. Theaters are really good to have, though they're very expensive. They're pretty much one of your few ways to to improve your the mood of provinces, which in the start of the game you actually have no way of improving the mood of a province without events. So we're going to go ahead and stick with competent difficulty, and we're going to go in. Because I've been rambling enough and I haven't actually done anything. And now I can actually go over the how things kind of start when you go into a shard. And then you don't have to deal with so much freaking dialogue. I mean, there's still plenty of like flavor dialogue. Blah blah blah, you're on a new shard. To unite it with your world, you have to defeat all the opponents. And first thing you need to do is hire a hero. Alright, so we start here in Half Moon. The name of your starting province is always the last name of your profile, which in my case is Half Moon. And we're currently surrounded by water, an Orcish tribe, a barbarian tribe, and a lizardman lands. This can be a bit of an issue. Alright. Also, if we take a look at our crafting thing, you'll notice that we have access to a lot more stuff now. We essentially have a lot of the tier 1 stuff, if not all of it. And then we have a few tier 2 stuff. Not a big deal. Just taking a look at what we got. 5 damage. I'm just seeing what I can go with. Generally, before you hire a hero, you want to take a look at what's around you. It looks like we got barbarian, orcs, and lizardman. Most of these aren't too bad. So I'm thinking for our hero, we can either go with a warrior or a scout. Generally, a warrior is a good newbie class to go with, especially in the beginning. Wizards are kind of hard to use because they require so many gems. And the commander, we haven't really talked about the commander, but let's go in order. The warrior specializes, his level ups and specialty is just in himself. He's very good at melee combat, and all of his level ups and benefits are generally devoted towards improving his own stats. He pretty much becomes a one-man army very easily if you build him up right and get him gear. The scout, you kind of already saw, he's a ranged combative. He does get a lot of level ups that involve archery, but he also gets level ups that involve mobility as well as exploration, which is pretty decent. The stuff that gives you like forest knowledge and hills knowledge to all your units is actually a really, really good buff to have. The commander is, well, actually sorry, the warrior can also equip heavy armor, scout can wear light armor, commander can wear medium armor. He starts out with no gear. The commander is not really about fighting. All of his level ups are generally devoted towards buffing his army. It's kind of like in Heroes of Might and Magic, where your stats didn't actually improve your hero, it was actually just improving your units. The commander is pretty much just that. His level ups will improve things like gives all your units plus 1 HP, or gives all units plus 1 attack, and so forth. So they're smaller buffs, but they affect your entire army, which can add up pretty quickly. The bad part about the commander, of course, is he's not very good at anything as far as by himself. He doesn't fight very well, and he doesn't have much in the form of magic. The wizard specializes in magic. He learns magic faster than anyone else. His level ups involve improving his magic. He also learned things like necromancy, which will allow him to make an undead army, which is pretty awesome. Besides that, that's pretty much the gist of it. He can only wear cloth. He can use a wand as a ranged weapon if he wants to. Besides that, the main issue is high-level magic beyond level 0 requires gems to use. So if you don't have very many gems, your wizard's going to be kind of useless. So, that's the gist there. Let's go ahead and take a look at... We start out with nothing in our garrison. We don't have a shop. And we need to decide what we need to go for. Now, generally, what you want to go for, if you want to make a durable troop, is you either want to go straight for swordsmen, or go straight for barbarians. Barbarians are generally more offensive, and they're a lot cheaper to buy. They have less requirements. All you have to do is buy a tavern, and then you can buy these guys. Swordsmen require iron, which means they're a little bit more expensive. You have to build a forge, which also requires iron. But these guys are very, very durable and very useful. So, these guys are pretty good for longevity. Barbarians, on the other hand, they're decent. Like I said, they're not very good at defense, but they do a lot of damage, and they can enrage, which allows them to do even more damage when they're wounded. The bad part is something to note about the healer. This is the only healer you have, and the healer is good aligned, which means barbarians are unscrupulous aligned, which means if you have barbarians and the priest, you're going to have morale penalties, which is not too big of a deal, but it's still something to note. So, that's kind of the gist of that. Usually, I originally would open with barbarians and then pick up a healer as quickly as possible. Nowadays, I generally go straight for swordsmen, because swordsmen are really, really durable and very, very good. You already know about these guys. You know about the slingers. Spearmen you know about. These are bowmen. We fought these before. They have decent range. Their shot power is not... They have probably compared to the other tier 1 stuff, they probably have the second strongest... They're the middle of the road as far as damage is concerned, but they have the best range. Professional bowmen are expensive warriors, but they are well worth their price. Bowmen strike the enemy at a great distance, weakening hostile infantry before the melee. An even more important duty the bowmen are well suited to is eliminate enemy spellcasters. It is essential not to let the enemy warriors approach our bowmen because they're rather weak in melee combat. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Swordsmen, really high defense, especially ranged defense, so bowmen can pretty much do nothing to these guys. They start out with parry 2, which means they get +2 armor against the first attack against them. These heavy infantrymen are perfect fit for both attack and defense. A large shield provides cover against enemy arrows and protection in melee combat. Long drills and constant training have taught them iron discipline. Each swordsman is an expert with his weapon, equally able to use his blade for attacking and to parry enemy blows. Essentially, they're the most expensive melee unit, but they're very, very powerful. Pikemen, we saw these guys before. They have first strike. They have not as good defense, but they have good counterattack, and that first strike is pretty useful. I might try going for pikemen. pikemen could be a pretty good thing to have. Pikemen are perfect for holding ground. Clad in sturdy chainmail and armed with a long pike, these heavy infantrymen are definitely not easy prey. Their long weapons allow the pikemen to strike before the enemy get close. So yeah. They're also cheaper to buy. A lot cheaper to buy. Crossbowmen. Crossbowmen are a deadly force in combat, although the effective range of their weapon is less than that of a bow. Its killing power is much greater. A crossbow shot is so deadly that no armor can fully protect against it. Since crossbowmen shoot from a relatively short range, they are equipped with strong armor and taught to handle a sword. When needed, these ranged units can hold their own in melee combat. Their only disadvantage is that heavy armor makes crossbowmen less mobile than other ranged units. So yeah, they have less range, and they do about the same damage, but they have armor-piercing shots, which means when they shoot units, the range defense of that unit is halved against that shot. The other bad thing about them is they have 1 speed, which means usually things that have mobility of 2 or higher, or speed of 2 or higher, can actually move and shoot. Crossbowmen cannot do that. Alright, and we already know about the healer. This is the barbarians. Barbarians have a lot of HP. They have Berserker Rage. Once heavily wounded, the unit falls into rage. As a result, the attack value increases by 2, and wounds do not affect it. The Berserker unit's morale never falters. You can actually increase this by leveling up. Barbarians can be found on virtually any inhabited shard. Some consider them barbarized descendants of ancient civilizations. Others think they are mere savages who never knew any law other than the law of brute force. The art of killing is practically the only art that these barbarians have mastered. Furious barbarian hordes inhabiting wide valleys and moors are a force to be reckoned with for any master. If left unattended, your barbarians will sow death and devastation among your people. If subdued, they will sow death and devastation among your enemies. In combat, barbarians are able to fall into berserker rage, crushing enemies with extraordinary force and heedless of their own wounds. Okay, and then we got thieves. You guys saw these guys before. They have the ability of agility, which means they ignore counterattacks when they attack in melee. They are very cheap to buy, and they have decent attack. The bad part is when you buy thieves and stuff, is they all have nega traits, like this one, which will reduce the amount of money you get from winning battles by a certain percentage. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Very low upkeep, but you end up losing money. Though, to be honest, losing stuff from battle trophies is not that big of a deal, because you don't really get very much from battle trophies by themselves. Anyway, they are often called the scum of the criminal world, for no normal thief would ever join the army. For the most part, the thieves joining military units have violated codes of the Thieves Guild and are trying to avoid being killed by their former colleagues. The unlucky ones who never learn their trade but master the skill of knife fighting also sign up often for service. Their low cost is one of the thieves' main advantages. No one would ever pay big wages to an unfortunate thief. However, the greedy looters are not too upset about this. The rascals hope to snatch their share by stashing away a good part of the war trophies. Also, thieves can throw knives, if you didn't notice. They also, if you level them up, they'll eventually get the ability to apply poison to their weapons. Brigands. Same issue, this one's also has the nega trait of Plunderer, which means they reduce the tax income of a province by 10%, which isn't too much, but it does get kind of annoying. Cheap cost, decent stats. They're kind of squishy though, but they're cheap. When the choice is between the gallows and the military, many brigands eagerly join the army. Teaching former cutthroats some discipline is a virtually impossible task. On the other hand, if former gallows birds don't ask for expensive wages. Army services fails to alter the brigands' old habits. During their free time, they sneakily resort to their former trade to make a living. When sharing trophies, the brigands try to snatch and The brigands try to snatch and stash away as much as possible. Officers tend to overlook these crimes, wisely thinking that a content brigand is better than constant squabbles among the troops. Brigands' fighting abilities are fairly good, especially considering the fact that recruiting and feeding these units costs virtually nothing. Unfortunately, their morale leaves much to be desired, and it's 8. It's pretty low. Having saved their necks from the gallows by joining the army, they are not all too eager to be killed by enemy swords. And then the last thing is the shaman, which we saw before as well. They have a magic shot, which is a ranged attack, but instead of relying on ranged defense, it relies on resistance. So it's actually good for fighting things like swordsmen, because they actually can do damage to them. They can also know the curse spell, which will reduce the target's attack and defense by... oh, it just reduces their attack and defense. It also uses up 1 ammo. So they do have a spell they can use, which is kind of useful. Shamanism, also known as lesser magic, is what savages and people deprived of magical talent resort to. Shamans use plenty of ingredients and amulets and other magical paraphernalia for their rites, relying on the properties of various substances released by means of a special ritual, rather than on their own magical power. Shamans themselves attribute the effect of their spells to the will of the spirits or some higher beings, which may not be far from the truth. The shaman's magic has not been fully explained, and the effects of certain rituals cannot be ascribed just to the properties of the mixed ingredients. Shamans tend to avoid the melee, showing their enemies with spirit furies, ancestral curses, and other hard-pronounced spells from a distance. Nevertheless, the shaman's magic is fairly powerful and capable of dealing great damage to the enemy. Okay, and there you go. And there's no rank 2s. I kind of went ahead and knocked those all out, because we're going to be fighting these guys pretty often. So now you guys get kind of the gist of everything. Alright, with that, what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and do my standard opening and see how it holds up. We're going to go ahead and start with a forge. We're going to go ahead and go with a warrior, just for the start. I kind of wish you could name your warriors and stuff, but you don't really get that customization option. So it gives you a random portrait, all of them male, and a random name. So now we have Darius the warrior. He starts out with a short spear, that's kind of not good, and a wooden shield. Every warrior will start out with a random weapon, either a spear, a sword, or a axe. And they'll either start with a wooden shield or a buckler. And alright. This one also starts out with Armor Master, which gives it +1 ranged, +1 defense and +1 ranged defense, which is really, really good. Also, Wizards, Scouts, and Warriors will start out with 1 Militiaman and 1 Slinger. If you start with a Commander, you will have a Militiaman, a Slinger, and a Spearman. So there you go. As you can see, you have decent attack stats, and so forth. Alright, what we're going to go ahead and do is buy ourselves a simple chainmail, because this will give us an additional 2 defense and range defense. So now he's a bit more durable. And okay, let's go ahead and see how my time is right now. And it's about time to go ahead and call this a video. Blah blah blah. Alright, I am the Depressed Eador, and this was Eador, Masters of the Broken World. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see about getting this show on the road. See you guys later.